everybody. Paula and I are co-hosting. We actually just had like a 2-minute conversation of how we were going to start this video because
Yeah.
we didn't know who was actually going to
We
kick the
don't
video
know whose
off.
whose turn it is to host, so we're just like, let's just go host.
Hello, here we are together. Not being super professional, just
Yeah.
good morning for everybody. For me, it's 6 a.m. my time. It's 6 p.m. Paula's
Yes,
time.
good evening for Australian.
Match.
Yep.
We didn't mean to match, but we do
Oh yeah, I
match.
know. We both got the blue going on today.
No, I know we match. So,
Charlotte calls this
um,
my frozen jumper. It's my frozen jumper because it looks a bit like
oh,
frozen.
Elsa. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cute. That is so cute. So yeah, you guys, we are most of you guys obviously know if you're watching from my channel, Esoteric Atlanta, and from Paula's channel, Inspired Spirit. I
Empower.
can never Empowered Spirit Healing. I always trying to I want to say yoga, and I was trying to say it anyway.
Yeah.
Paula's links for my channel will be down in the description box below. You guys make sure to check out Paula's and our Substacks. And Paula, we also have for the Esoteric Academy. For those who don't know, Paula has opened up an Instagram account for the Esoteric
Yes,
Academy.
I have.
So if you are, sorry, my washer is going off right now. If you guys hear some music, that's the washing machine. It sings to me when it's done. I apologize if you guys can hear that. I can't stop it until it stops itself. But if you guys are Instagrammers, then please go and make sure to follow us on the Esoteric Academy. Paula has done a really good job just posting little blurbs about, little quick motivational quotes, little blurbs about health, to help keep you on track and help you remember why you're dedicating yourself to fixing yourself, to working on yourself to begin with, because the work is hard, isn't it, Paula?
Yes, yeah, it really can be. And actually, that's something that we wanted to talk about today is just how it can be challenging to be consistent and to keep up with the exercise and having some kind of consistency. And that's actually one thing I really wanted to talk to you about today, Brice, and just ask you because I mean, I know that it's not really fair to use kids as an excuse, but I have to say, like, I definitely was a lot more consistent with my exercise before I had children. And then having children just kind of puts things you kind of get different sleeps. Like some nights you get sleep, some nights you don't get sleep. It's just very hit and miss. So it can be hard to be consistent. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk to you about what are your kind of little tips and tricks at how you stay consistent with your exercise routine?
So, with kids, and again, I don't have kids, but I've learned a lot from my colleagues who have children. First of all, and this goes also for people who don't have kids. So, the first thing you're going to have to understand is when you're doing this work, it's never going to be perfect.
Hmm.
All right. It's never the YouTube videos that you see online, the beautiful Instagram pictures you see of asana shots or people, that's staged to look perfect. I can't tell you how many of my colleagues post videos of themselves doing like third series, like standing up with their leg behind their head, and they've got a 2-year-old hanging off their side.
Yeah.
Oh, like hanging on them, or they're doing a sun salutation and their kid is like standing on their back, or they're in the middle of the practice and their kid comes running down the stairs crying and they have to stop their practice and like kiss a boo-boo or go and get a goldfish or cereal, give a kid an iPad, and so I think if you have children, especially young children, that seems to be the big problem is the younger children,
Yeah.
is that first of all understand that being a parent is part of your practice,
Hmm.
right? That is part of it too. We call that seventh series, and the family life is seventh series. And we only have 6 series of physical work. Family life is seventh series. So if you have young children, part of your workout might be, and part of that mental meditation might be accepting that you might have to pause the workout in the middle of it to go and get an iPad for your kid, or go and wipe a bottom, or go and break up a fight,
Hmm.
you know? That just might be what you have to. So don't try to outsmart your life. Just accept and know that that's true for everyone. That's true. I mean, I think I've talked about in India before when my teacher's son was little. He would come in with a Nerf, I can't say the G word, but the Nerf ones.
Yeah.
And we were practicing,
It's just
with it, like, and that's just how it is, right? That's just one of my favorite stories too is some people bring their kids to, I told the story with Mariella. to India and they'll sit in the shala and like play on an iPad or color while their parents are practicing in the main shala. And this one little girl one year had her headphones on and she was watching an iPad and she was sitting against the wall and we're all practicing, do it, and it's quiet. You just hear breathing and Sharat's like talking to people. And all of a sudden you hear her start singing. And she has no idea that she's singing out loud, but she's singing like a little kid song. And everybody kind of laughed a little bit. And Sharat was like, keep practicing. She's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just how it is. So let go of any type of expectation
Hmm.
that you have of what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
We're not trying to escape your humanness, right? And being a human being for a lot of people means that you're a parent,
Yeah.
you
And I
know?
think trying to make your routine fit in with the parent lifestyle is really helpful as well. So, like I've shared before, I literally get up. It takes me a little while to wake up sometimes. I have to check a few emails to kind of wake myself up a little bit. And then I literally work out in my pajamas majority of the time because it's just easier for me. And I just work out in my bedroom at the end of my bed. And that's just the easiest way for me to do it. And that way, like if Scarlett wakes up, then she knows I'm right there, and she just knows that I'm just doing my exercise, and she'll go back to sleep. Or sometimes she gets up and gets her yoga mat out, and she's like, "I'm doing yoga too." So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm glad you brought that up. Let the children, I try to be very mindful about some of the music I pick. Sometimes obviously there are bad words in the music, but if your child decides they want to do it with you, let them. Don't
yeah,
correct them, don't school them. They're not going to be let them if they want you to watch them and they're doing something completely different from what's just say good job, let them
yeah,
play, especially with young kids, we don't want to encourage like working out with a young kid. We want to encourage this work as fun
hmm,
and playtime as well. And one thing too, Paula, what you're doing for the parents too, this might help as well. By your children, we as humans learn more from what we observe than by
hmm,
what we're told.
yeah,
And so if your child is watching you exercise every day, love yourself every day, have fun with it every day, guess what's going to happen? Whether they know it or not, when they grow up, they're going to have a healthier relationship
yeah.
with their body. And
They
they're going to
absolutely
want
will.
it's very we were talking about that how I offline, I've been sharing a lot of what doctors now are saying about working out, and many doctors have said, and I'm paraphrasing, like this idea that your genetics are what make you overweight or make you this or that is completely false. That's fake news. It's
Yeah,
not your genetics. It's your choices. So what tends to happen is we tend to follow habits of our parents or our grandparents. We make bad choices, we make bad excuses, and that's what's causing issues.
hmm,
So if you just make different choices, some
yeah,
of those issues that you think are genetic are going to go away. And
yeah,
so by you making choices to exercise every day, to let your kids see you exercising, you are changing, you are course correcting karma, family karma. And that's so important. And even though, like in a strict disciplined society, I guess a disciplined practice, we practice at the same time every day, that's very unlikely for most people, especially if you have kids. So in this season of your life, if you have young children especially, your exercise might be at different times at different days. And
yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. If you're having to carpool and do this and do that, and especially if you have really young kids that you can't take your eyes off because they're super young and they could put their finger in a socket, or you know um you might have to just do it during their nap time, or do it
yeah.
with them in the room at different times. That's totally fine. That season of as do most seasons of our life. That's why they're called seasons of our life. They change.
Hmm.
So this isn't forever, and
Yeah,
I
and
guarantee you once.
I think I'm becoming more like relaxed on that because I've always been a bit too rigid about things, and I kind of just started to accept that you can't control everything and everything's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. But as long as you're getting up and you kind of just get started, I think at least, and just kind of just do the best that you can, and even if it is a different time every day, and even if it is maybe sometimes you might have to do it in the morning or sometimes do it in the evening or whatever works for you. I think it's just being flexible with it. But as long as you're sticking with it, that's the most
Yeah,
important
just
thing.
the consistency is what you need. I know somebody in the yoga world who would take her mat. Every day her kid had soccer practice. And so while her kid had
Oh,
that was the only time she had to practice. So she would take the
wow.
yoga mat and do her practice in the parking lot while her child did
Wow.
soccer practice. So where there's a will, there's a way,
Yeah.
right?
Make
So,
it work. Hmm.
take your iPad with you, put it at the trunk of your car and do your workout in the parking lot while your kid, well, nobody's watching you. They're watching their kids play soccer.
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
cares if people are watching you? They're probably admiring you. They're like, God, I wish I had the discipline to do, like I've seen people doing weird things in airports before to stretch their legs out. Like there's a will, there's a way. There's
Yeah.
always a way to figure it out. And so being creative is part of your right as a human being. And so if you have young children right now and you have to be creative about when you get your workout in, that you know what? That's just going to exercise your mind and
Yep.
make your mind
That's
sharper.
true. Get you thinking.
So it's a win-win situation. Being a little Pollyanna-ish here, like it's a win-win situation. I always laugh with people, my practice when I'm not filming or teaching, when I am here practicing by myself, I'm in the kitchen by the dog bowl.
Yeah.
Not glorious, right? It's not a glorious, beautiful, the dog bowl's right there. Usually my clothes don't match, my pants are inside out. It's just the reality of the situation. Yeah. And that's another thing too. Again, just remember expectation and reality are usually two totally different things.
Mhm.
Which again, it brings us to another point. I just want to remind everybody too. Um, I've been doing this for 19 years. So when you have a teacher, whether it's me, whether it's a personal trainer, whether it's a cycling teacher, Pilates teacher, you want your teacher to be fitter than you.
Mhm.
You want that
Yeah.
because they know what they're doing and they're trying to guide you down a path they've already walked down. Okay. So do not compare. Do not compare your chapter one to somebody else's chapter 10. Don't do that to yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And that teacher, whether it's me, whether it's a Pilates teacher, dancing, whatever, there's a lot that they have gone through before they were ever teachers that you didn't see.
Mhm.
So don't think that just because they make it look easy, that it is easy. And understand that the only reason they can make it look easy is because they've done it for a long, long time.
Yeah. Like, so we didn't see you in India when you were going through the hard yards. So, yeah. And it's very easy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is, if you're trying to leapfrog from chapter one all the way and make yourself look like somebody's chapter 10, you are missing some pretty incredible experiences and lessons in chapter two through nine.
Yeah. And a lot of healing comes from that as well.
Yeah. It doesn't, I can't see you obviously when you're doing these videos, I'm doing them by myself and talking to you in the future, watching them, right? And think about it this way too. If I were new at this and you were having, because I verbally teach you, but a lot of it is just trying, for human beings, a lot of it is just mimicking what they're saying,
Hmm.
right? It's trying to mimic the shape. If I were new at this, it would be sloppy and you wouldn't be able to understand what to do. So you want somebody who can demonstrate cleanly.
Yeah, that's right.
You are better served
Hmm.
in what you are doing, especially when you're at home by yourself. Now, with that being said, I've told you, Paula, I did a modified Ashtanga practice for you guys, but I will never personally do a full-on Ashtanga practice and film it for you.
Hmm.
And Paula and I talked about that. That's something we don't do in Ashtanga, mainly because I don't want you to pick up my bad habits. Because sometimes people see their teacher and they totally mimic their teacher, but they're actually starting to mimic. I was explaining to you, Paul, like when I go back for a deep back bend, like either in Kapotasana or to catch my ankles, my right elbow has the tendency to want to move out to the side. So
Hmm.
I constantly am having to work to keep my right elbow in by my head. That's a constant work I've had to do for years. And you'll see me if you ever see footage of me practicing, actually working my elbow consciously to pull it in. So what my fear would happen is that a student would watch that, then that student would start to move their arm too, not
Yeah.
realizing that's my own karma that I'm working on in my practice and not necessarily yours.
Yeah.
And so
And
that's
we
why
don't want
I
to be
would
adopting that.
no, and that's why I personally will never practice in front of a student ever. I did a modified stuff because that's fine, but like when we do the Ashtanga course, we're going to have an assistant practice so I can point things out so that you're not picking up any. And that's why my boyfriend never practices in front of his students ever,
Hmm.
because It's about you. Does that make sense? But with
Yeah.
like fusion classes, stuff like that, it's a little bit different. But with Ashtanga, it's the postures are each posture is extremely potent for different reasons, and we just want to make sure that the student is being best served in the way that they can be, without adapting any more karma, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would also just like to add that I think it's really, really important to have a reason why you're getting up and exercising, because that can be, and the why can't be just you want to look good in a bikini because
That's never
um
going to last.
yeah, weight loss is it's nice in theory, but it's never going to last long term. And when you have those difficult days when you're tired or you're feeling a bit, you start to get sick, or you've just, you've had a hard week, or you've just got a lot going on, it can be really hard to get the motivation to get up and to exercise. And that's when you really need that reason why. And sometimes being accountable to somebody, having a friend or a partner or someone that you can be accountable with can be really helpful. But at the end of the day, I just feel like having that strong why is just that's what will get you up and get you out of bed and doing the exercise. I think the why is just so important. I mean, for me, I've got quite a few different whys. I mean, one of the whys is I really would like to age gracefully. It's not about looking good, but I really want to be fit and healthy as I'm getting older. I mean, I'm 38 years old now. I'm still hoping to live for quite a lot longer, and I want to be fit and healthy. I don't want to be, dependent on my children or anybody else to move me about and to do things. I want to be living in my own place and being able to drive and being healthy and fit and being able to do things on my own. Another big why is because I'm a part of the academy. And yes, Brice is our amazing teacher, but I'm part of the academy, and even though I specialize more in the quantum healing side of things, I also want to be a role model to people. And even though I don't haven't been working out for 19 years like Brice has, but I want to show that I'm doing the work too. So that's another reason for me to get up and to do the work, because I want to show that I'm growing along with our students and I'm doing the work as well. I don't want to be one of those people, I don't want to be a fake influencer who's like, oh yeah, I do this every day, and then really I'm, not doing anything at all. I want to actually walk the talk. So that's another big why for me. And to be able to do fun things with my kids and spend time with my kids. And I think that's a big thing. You've got to look at what is your why. What is the reason why you want to get fit and healthy? Maybe there's different health problems that run in your family and you don't want to, because as we're learning, genetics can be turned on and off. I mean, there's so many. I mean, Bruce Lipton has talked about this. There's so many different incredible people out there that have talked about this and how we can turn on and off different cells in our bodies for health problems and for having good health. And so I think exercise is incredibly powerful at clearing all of that, and even just burning off karma. You know, just
Absolutely.
just burning off karma. Exercise is incredibly healing at doing that. So yeah, there's lots of great reasons why, but you've got to dig deep within yourself to find out what your personal why is. Yeah.
That's really important. And I want to make this very clear. Motivation is a fickle mistress who only shows up when she wants. What we're talking about is discipline. And
Yeah.
motivation is that desire, discipline is without desire. And I kid you not, guys, for like 19 years, every day I want to skip.
Hmm.
But that why, well, first of all, as you're saying, with the integrity part of it, I have signed in the contract with India that I would keep, that I would, that's part of, they're very strict on us, that as teachers, we have
Okay.
to
You have to keep
maintain a
up with
very
it.
intense practice.
Yeah.
Like we can't drop our practice. Um, for me too, before I teach, especially in person, but even when we do our live classes, before I teach, I make sure that I've done my practice first because I
Right.
have to filter my energy. I need to make sure I'm balanced so that my energy doesn't affect the student in a negative way.
Hmm.
Right. So this is very serious. That's why Ashtanga teachers get up at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Yeah,
That's why.
that makes sense. Yeah, because
It's not because,
they've got to
yeah,
get themselves, and that's like with as a healer. As a healer,
Mhm.
you can't just go in and start healing people. You've got to do
No,
the clearing work first. You've got to make sure that you're clear, you've cut all your cords, that you're a clear vessel for the energy to flow through. And so that makes perfect sense. That's why you'd have to get up early and you've got to be balanced and clear before you start teaching. Yeah.
that's why in Mysore programs, Brahma Muhurta starts an hour, 45 minutes before sunrise. But most Mysore teachers are up at like 2 in the morning.
Mhm.
That's because they're doing their practice before Brahma Muhurta so they can serve you at Brahma Muhurta.
Yeah.
We take this very seriously in the Ashtanga world, very, very seriously. And so that's why Wednesdays I'm up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I teach an early morning class. I go to Sacred Garden Yoga and I do my practice. I get there, I get up at 2, I get there about 3-ish. I do my practice. I clean myself, change, get something to eat, clean the room, sage the room, clean the room before my students come in at 6:30. That is part of it. It's not just your work as this type of teacher isn't just the 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. class. It's the build up for the class as well.
Beforehand. Yeah.
And we take that very seriously. And so that's part of my why as well. Also, yeah, you're right, Paula. Every time I don't want to work out, do my practice, I just remind myself how I feel when I'm done,
Hmm.
how balanced I feel when I'm done. Yeah, and how I feel my nervous system, my anxiety is dissipated. I'm clearer headed,
Yeah.
and so yeah, with the vanity stuff, with all that kind of stuff, listen, that's going to happen anyway.
Hmm.
That's just going to happen. The more you refine your muscles, the more tone they're going to be.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen. The more you work on why you overeat, and if you do have the propensity to overeat, the more you address that, you're just going to naturally start to drop weight.
Yeah. And
Right?
and I feel like when I'm on a regular exercise routine, I naturally start to crave more healthier foods and want
Yeah.
to eat more healthier to go along with that. You just start to, and you'll find that you start to be more organized at home and you start to be more efficient. You have more energy to do things, and then just things just start to fall into place in your life all around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so just know, I just want everyone to know that when you start this journey, listen, most of the time, I'm going to be honest with you, most of the time you're not going to want to do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's why they say the beginning is the hardest part. The
Yeah.
beginning of any type of ask a marathon runner, the beginning, when they start, I don't want to say the word pew pew, when they start that in the line and they go, that's the hardest part.
Mhm.
It's not the middle or the end, it's the beginning. But give yourself, so the first 7 to 10 minutes in the gym, they would call that the warm up. But in spirituality, the first 7 to 10 minutes, we call that the initiation of the practice. I like saying that better. It's the initiation. It's
Mhm.
not just getting your body ready, but it's also getting your mind ready. So give yourself 7 to 10 minutes of hating every minute of it. And then after that 7 to 10 minutes, you should feel a shift in your mind where
Mhm.
you're then in that active meditation and you're just doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've
just
definitely
know
noticed that.
for the first 7 to 10 minutes, you are getting your mind, you're pulling your mind into that active meditation. We exercise is active meditation. So that's the initiation.
Mhm.
So it's only good 7 to 10 minutes. That's not that long. Just give
Yeah.
yourself that 7 to 10 minutes to start it. And then once that passes, you're in that, your body is doing the motion now without a lot of resistance, right? It's creating its energy at that point. Also, I want to remind people, we talked about this beforehand, just for people who are new, especially Westerners. Exercise is supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be hard.
Mhm.
That's the point. Yeah.
Which
If it were
which is
easy,
hard for Westerners to accept because we're kind
yeah,
of used to things being a bit cruisy.
yeah. If it were easy, everybody would do it. That's why
Yeah.
not a lot of people do it, right? So it's hard because that's the resistance that you feel, not just mentally, but also physically, is what makes you stronger.
Hmm.
Right? So when we are doing the work, when we're doing the weights and we feel that resistance, we feel that burn, that's the muscle breaking down to build back stronger.
Hmm.
Right? The more you get your mind, the more the mind starts negotiating, be like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. This hurts. I can't do this. The thoughts of the mind, the more you allow those thoughts to keep chattering, but you continue with the motion, the less power those thoughts have
Yeah.
over you. So watch your mental negotiations. Most of the time people quit in the middle of a workout, and I know as a teacher that that's true. You just gave into your mind.
Mm.
Your body was fine. It was your mind that was struggling. If you guys want more information on that, we do have the Alchemy of Movement workshop course on our, and that's where I talk about that a lot, about the ego, the false sense of self, the fear of mortality, the ego being a part of that mortality, the soul not. That's why the ego fights the resistance of exercise. But if you slip into the subtle body or the soul, there's not going to be any resistance. We go into that in the Alchemy of Movement on the course, because that is, and we can maybe one day do a live call over that as well. But just know that when you feel those mental negotiations, do not get discouraged, because literally every single person on the planet is going through the same thing.
Yeah. And look, like the first few classes, it can be quite tough to get through. But honestly, the more you do it, your body really builds up that strength and that resistance, and it can handle doing it for longer. So it can handle longer classes, and it just gets easier. I mean, I remember when I first started back in November, December, it was a bit challenging for me to stick with the classes. And I was just like, Brice, we need like 20, 30-minute classes. I'm not used to this. And now I do a 40 to 50, like 40 to 60-minute class like it's a 20 to 30-minute class, because I'm just so used to that now, because my body's gotten used to it. But
Yeah.
it's just come from the continuous practice. Whereas when you're not used to that, it just takes a bit of time. But the key is just to keep with it, just keep going,
Yeah.
you know?
That
Yeah.
is, there's no magic pill.
Yeah.
If you're not consistent, that, I mean, that might sound tough love, but if you're not consistent, nothing's going to change.
No, that's right. And that's what I found too. You have to stick with it. And it's taken me some time, but it really does get easier the more you do with it. I mean, obviously it doesn't, you still got to challenge yourself, because then you can move on to the harder classes. But it's just, yeah, there's just no way, there's no skipping. You've just got to get through it. Yeah.
You can't leapfrog.
Hmm.
There's no such thing as leapfrogging out of it. You got to go through it. You just, and I say to a lot in the videos, and this was what helped me. This is stuff I do practice what I preach, like you were talking about. That's one thing there's a lot that I have to work on with myself, but one thing I will practice what I preach,
Yeah.
100%. I've been trained to do that. And so a lot of these things I say in the video are things that I've had to say to myself. When you're in that moment when it's hard, it's uncomfortable, and you're sweating profusely and your muscles are burning, a lot of times I'll remind you, like, to embrace that feeling, because that's you
Yeah.
being alive.
Yep.
That's what being alive feels like.
Yeah, I always laugh when you're like,
What do I say? Deaf
people
people
can't
don't
sweat.
sweat. Like, you be in the moment. We spend so much time trying not to die that we
Yeah.
forget to actually be alive. And
Yeah.
after that hard, intense cardio, to be able to take in that fresh new oxygen, to feel it in your body, to take a moment to register that you just took in fresh oxygen is life. Or I'd have you really heavily exhale to get rid of stale oxygen. That's stale karma. We just did a live class over somatic healing on Saturday. We just released the first somatic video. And in that live class, which is now up on the Academy, I actually showed a video of a military personnel, ex-military personnel, going through what would be considered a form of somatic therapy, which is inducing the nervous system to shake. And we watched a video of this military man shaking. It's on the Academy now. It's in the live call from what was the date? The 7th we did that. So let me check yeah, the 7th.
Mhm.
If you guys are on the Academy, you can go watch that, where we watched the video of this military man. And in it, actually, in the shakes, the guy talks about all of a sudden he started to cough up and like heave up, and he felt like this like toxin, this air was coming out of him. He was really, it showed the video, and he was like really trying to, and that's why I told the class, that's why I try to get you to get rid of, to exhale stale oxygen, because
Yeah.
oxygen is that pranayama, that extension of life's capacity, which actually holds trauma. So oxygen does get stuck in the body. And when you up the heart rate, and the heart rate starts, and the lungs start to pump faster, you have the ability to then expel old oxygen, stale oxygen that's trapped in trauma.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what's happening with the body too, and why it's uncomfortable, is you're literally you're course correcting old trauma.
Yeah.
And that takes away power from the establishment. If that's your motivator, if it's just taking power away from the establishment, then there you go. That could
Yeah.
be your biggest lie, giving a middle finger to the establishment, right? And so I would love for you guys, if you're on the academy and you did not make that live call on the 24th, please go, or the 7th, please go back and watch that because we do talk about the nervous system,
Mhm.
which our new somatic shake video kind of goes into that rebound work to get the body to release.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest difference I would say, Paula, from our platform and other like workout platforms.
Is going into the spiritual aspects and the healing aspects. And then we've also been talking about how important it is to do the meditation after you've done the exercise just to help integrate everything that you've just done. And so both of us have put up quite a few different post-workout meditations focusing on different things. We've got a chakra one, we've got a pain relief one, we've got one for like stress and anxiety, for grounding, and all kinds of things. So that's really, really important too. And that's actually one of my kind of favorite parts of the workout is afterwards is just laying there and then just feeling your body and just feeling your blood just pulsing through your body. And you can only kind of get that feeling from doing a workout. You
Yeah.
don't if you just lay down and meditate, you're not going to feel that because you haven't worked your body. But if you've gone and done a full-on workout, and then you just lay there and it's a beautiful feeling. I actually really enjoy it and just
And that's what the ancients meant, because you
yeah,
can't, what's happening? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I can give you all the information in the world. Paula can give you all the information in the world, but it means nothing unless you actually activate it.
yeah,
And you're the only one that can do that. And so that's why you feel that feeling, because I can't make that feeling happen for you.
no.
That's you actually doing the work, and that's your vitality. That's you bringing vitality to your body. As we see all the time, Paula, so many people have all these videos about the chakras. They
Hmm.
talk about the chakras till they're blue in the face. None of that is doing anything though.
Yeah, because
You just talk is cheap.
you've got to move to really activate them into place. Yeah,
You read Eastern
absolutely.
Body, Western Mind, she even talks about that every chakra.
Yes.
There's exercises involved, right? Like that's because you have to bring that vitality. As the Cassiopeians have taught us, we are the fallen angels. We decided to come into physicality. We can't go back. We have to go through it. So we have to be in the physical body. We can't ignore it. We can't disassociate. If we try to disassociate from the physical body, we're just going to have to come back and do it again. The universe is not going to let us out of this until we actually go through it.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
long that takes you to go through it is up to you. I'm frankly sick of it. I'm ready to move. I'm going to move through it so that I can put it
Yeah.
to rest,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you brought that up before we get into that. A lot of people in yoga shalas know this, but that's why I've taken the philosophy of yoga and put it into modern day exercise. Because a lot of people who just exercise don't know this, the
Hmm.
integration process.
Yeah.
So when we are working out, you guys, so when you're in the middle of that workout, that's not when the healing is happening.
Hmm.
What you're doing in that workout is you're burning karma. It's like you've got an old, dilapidated building in your town, right? It's falling apart. And the city decides that it's time for us, the building needs to go. It needs to be torn down. We need to put something new there.
Hmm.
What would happen, Paula, then if we took a wrecking ball and took the building down, but then just left the debris and walked away? Nothing new could be built there.
No, because it'd just be a big mess there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's happening in your workout. So that's what's when you're in the middle of whatever that is, yoga, dance, walking, running, whatever. When you feel that sweat coming and that burning sensation, your body is pulling down old patterning,
Yeah.
old buildings in your
Mhm.
neighborhood that are not serving you anymore. However, if you just stop the workout and then go about your day,
You've got all that debris just sitting there.
it hasn't been flushed out. So that's why a lot of people might go for a run and they might feel agitated for the rest of their day or still anxious. It's because they haven't dissipated the energy. They kicked the
Right.
energy up,
Hmm.
they pulled impurities up, but then they just left them there. They didn't wipe them away.
Yes.
So that's why, in the gym, they might call it a cool down, or we do the integration process, which would be the warm up, the bulk of the work. And then we have the integration at the end, which would be the cool down, which is why the stretching is important. The
Yes.
deep stretching to move the blood. That what we're doing is we're moving the blood into the body where there's just been a lot of work done to move impurities out. And then we lie down with the palms face up, always palms face up, because that's receiving, that's releasing energy. And why you feel that
Yeah,
nervous
you can
system.
feel the blood pumping through your body. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're allowing the blood then. You're pausing for just a moment. It's only like 5 minutes. You're just
Hmm.
pausing to let your blood go. Because think about it, right? Let's think about the blood. Let's say like you do a workout and then you run to the grocery store.
Hmm.
Well, to go to the grocery store with your cart, you're still using muscles, right? So the blood is trying to clean up the mess from the workout, but it's still having to pull blood into the muscles you're using to just live. So you
Yeah.
give 5 minutes to let the blood move through the body where it needs to go to do the biggest haul without anything else going on.
Hmm.
You're going to set yourself up to feel more peaceful. You're going to support your body. And a lot of people don't do this at gyms. A lot of people don't understand that this is
Yeah.
not just important for your physical healing, but also for the mental healing too.
Yes.
And so that's super important. So we have a whole, as Paula said, we have a whole post-workout meditation for, because we don't want you just, you don't have, I mean, if you want to just do our platform, that's fine, but we wanted you to go and run in the park and go and take a cycling class if
Yeah,
you want to.
absolutely.
We're not a cult. We want you
Yeah.
to, our job is
We
to
want you to
empower you.
do what works for you. If you want to go
Yeah.
swimming in the pool or at the beach or go running or walking or, go at the playground. If you've got young kids
Yes.
and they're at the playground, you can do a workout at the playground while the kids are playing.
Yes.
You
And
got
then
to
come
do what
home
works for you. But
and
then
when we, so
we've got
we've
those
got,
meditations ready for you to do when you come back. And yeah,
yeah,
and I don't know about you, Brice, but I just feel like having that contrast of doing the work, getting all hot and sweaty, and then when you're relaxing with the meditation, it just feels so much sweeter because you've
yeah.
worked for it rather than just, if you were just to sit on a couch all day long, it's just like, just feels the same. But when you've done a really hard workout, then you really appreciate that downtime. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be long, just for a few minutes, just let your body just settle into the body. And we've created quite a few different ones to suit what you might need. But if you have any requests, please feel free to add them. But yeah, but
I
it's
even
just
have a
really important.
clothing for runners. We have a few runners. We for
Yeah.
walkers. I have we were just looking at it before you sign on. I have a 35 minute stretch, deep
Yes.
stretch, and meditation. So
Hmm.
you don't know how to stretch yourself out, cool yourself down. Don't worry. Go for your run, enjoy your walk, and then hop on when you get home when you can and put that on, and I'll walk you through it so that you can rebalance your body. And it's supposed to be uncomfortable. We talked about this before, but just to remind people, when we are uncomfortable, when we're in pain, that's when there's truth.
Hmm.
That's when there's clarity. So I think sometimes when people just do seated meditation, they're still a little bit in delusion because they haven't had to face pain is real,
Yeah.
discomfort is real. You can't lie when you are super sick or in pain. There's no faking that.
Hmm.
I mean, I talked about it. I think I talked about it a couple classes ago. I mean, think about it from a global perspective, like in 2020. Think about it globally. We got so uncomfortable in 2020. What happened?
Yeah.
We had no choice but to wake up.
That's right. Yeah, it made people search for
Yeah.
looking for answers to their questions, and a lot of
There
people
had to
got
be clarity.
yeah.
There was clarity all of a sudden. And
Yeah.
once you know what you're working with, you know what you're working with.
Hmm.
And so anytime it's uncomfortable, celebrate that. Okay, interesting. I know what I'm working with now.
Yeah.
Now I know the truth. Now
And
I know where my truth is.
And I think it's also important to just kind of address that, if certain emotions are coming up whilst you're doing the workout, like for me, I have a lot of trouble with the forward folding. Um, my hamstrings are just like to give me a challenge. So that's my karma that I've got to work on. And so I have had times when I have had a lot of emotions come up and I've just cried. Um, and that's okay. Like I've just given myself the space to do that. And I've
Mhm.
just kind of gone into it to just try and work out, okay, what's going on. And I've realized that through doing the exercises, I've realized, okay, I've been holding on to a lot of anger and a lot of sadness in my thighs, which
Yeah,
is incredible.
that's
And I
normal. That's a
and I would
normal
never,
area to hold.
but I would never have known that had I not, done the exercise and kind of just been like, okay, it's safe, it's okay to feel those emotions and to let them come up. Don't be afraid to feel those emotions because it is uncomfortable and it does come up. And I think we're so programmed to just be like, oh, okay, no, let's run away from that. We don't want to feel that. We don't want to go there. But do take the time to just go there and feel it. And if you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream or punch your pillow, then do that. Just let whatever the emotion is that you're feeling, just let it come out. And that's the beauty of when you can work out at home.
No
Um,
one, yeah, no
yeah,
one's there to
no
watch
one
you.
can
You're not,
see
yeah,
you. And if you need to
you're all
press
by yourself.
pause and go have a cry or a scream or something, you can do that.
Well, and that's an important element too, Paula. So that's what the yoga is. So yoga, that's one way that the establishment has really screwed people's idea up of yoga. They think
Mhm.
yoga is supposed to be relaxing. No, Patanjali never says that. It's not about being comfortable. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Because when
Yeah.
you're comfortable, your mind is not in the moment. But where there's discomfort, where there is struggle, that's where the yoga is. That's the yoga. So for
Mhm.
Paula, her yoga is her hamstrings.
Yeah.
For me, it's back bends.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that moment of being very uncomfortable, your mind is right there with you.
Yeah.
It's not thinking about anything else. It's not disassociating, right? And so so change your thought pattern around people think yoga is about relaxation. No, it's about being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You're embracing that. And when I say yoga, a lot of people think just yoga postures. No, yoga is a philosophy. It's not just it. And
Yeah.
then that's what I'm taking that yoga philosophy and putting it into cardio classes, into, that's what we're doing with that. And so lean into that. That's where it's interesting.
Yeah.
That's where it's spicy. That's where it's
And
juicy.
that's where you learn so much about yourself and
Yep.
what issues you've got going on in your life. And when you release them and just accept them and welcome them instead of pushing them away, that's when the healing happens. And it's so
They start to lose
powerful.
power over you. They start losing power over you. And
Yeah.
I will say, guys, so your yoga, your work lies on the classes you hate doing.
Yeah.
The classes you don't like doing, that's where your yoga lies. Those are the ones you should be doing the most of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. That's how it is. And yeah, I know that's so you guys, any questions you have about that, if you're still curious about the academy, and I know it's hard for Westerners to like totally change the way you think about exercise and the way you think about yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and this is the reason why, Paula, I pulled out of the truther community, because I was seeing people talk about these med beds and I was like, this totally defeats the purpose of being human.
Yeah.
Like this is a slap in the face
Hmm.
across across people like me who've spent their lives trying to course correct themselves and face themselves. And you're telling me now that you think you're going to get to leapfrog and
Yeah.
cheat the system?
Yeah, well, I mean, same with
Darling,
me. I have spent so many years researching, looking into healing stuff, looking at how we can change our thoughts and our patterns and our cells and everything. And even though Brice and I have gone down slightly different paths, we have both worked so hard at this. And it is a slap in the face because it's just like, well, okay, we'll just hop into a med bed and all our problems are solved. But there's always a cost to that because
yeah,
this is not why we came here. We did not
no,
come to this earth plane to just leapfrog into solutions. We came here so that we could physically go through the work. We're meant to physically do this. Like I was saying to you, Brice, it's like that story about the going on a bear hunt and you can't go under it, you can't go over it, you got to go through it. And and that's why we're here. Our souls chose to come here, and we need to actually go through the process of doing the work. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not.
no.
I mean, even just, I mean, I've kind of been off YouTube for a couple of weeks because I've just gone through my own kind of little dark night of the soul because I had some things come up for me and I had to work through them and I just had to take a breather. And so I did. And I spent a lot of that time journaling. I was just writing a lot and a lot of stuff just came up for me. I did some healings on myself. I did some meditations, and I also realized that I hadn't been spending enough time. I can be a bit of a workaholic sometimes. So I
Yeah,
was just
same.
like, you know what? I need to go sit outside and I like to crochet. So I was like, I need to crochet and I need to just do some things for me and I just had to get through it. And I was pretty down for a couple of weeks. It was pretty uncomfortable. But the difference was this time, Brice, is because I have gone through periods of this in my life lots of times. But in the past, I would kind of always get into like a panic and I would always kind of just think that, oh my God, am I going to be like this forever? Am I just going to be depressed all the time now? Like, is this just who I am now? Whereas now I've learned that this is just part of the cycle that we go through. we have our ups and we have our downs and we kind of have our in-betweens. And I was just like, okay, so this is just one of the challenging things that I'm going through and it will pass. I just kept comforting myself, just saying to myself that this will pass. You've just got to move through it. And in the past, I've always just wanted to escape it. But this time I was just like, no, it's okay. Just feel it. Just feel what's coming up. And I think that's another thing that we've been so programmed in society is as soon as we get uncomfortable, we turn to alcohol or we turn to food or we smoke or we go out partying or, whatever
We
people's,
blame someone else.
yeah, we blame someone else. Whatever somebody's escapism is, we go and do that because we're programmed that we just don't have time to deal with things and we have to just go and we just go and escape and we just suppress and suppress all the time. But the more that we suppress stuff, it's we're not getting anywhere with that. And I just feel like the real healing happens. And I shared with you, Brice, that oh, hello, Millie's come to say hello. I was just saying that I shared with you off camera that and I don't mind sharing this online because I think it's important to know this. So, as a child, I did feel quite abandoned and I've had quite a lot of abandonment issues to heal. And so when I was doing some journaling, I by writing it all out, getting it all off my mind, and then I just kind of had this moment where I was just like, okay, so as a child, when there were these times that I thought that I was all alone, I realized that no, I wasn't alone. um, I had God with me the whole time. And I was actually kind of grateful for the first time in my life that I grew up as a Christian because I got to know who God was, even though I don't agree with religion, I don't agree with Christianity. But I kind of wonder, maybe if I'd grown up in a family that was not religious, maybe I wouldn't have known God and I would have felt completely alone. But I realized that all these times when I'd felt like my mum wasn't around and I had nobody else that was looking out for me, God was with me the whole time because I used to talk to him all the time and I used to talk to the angels all the time. And that really helped me. And it sounds crazy, but when I kind of had that realization moment, I literally felt like I had like a timeline kind of shift happen. Like I felt like something had just collapsed in my past of all these beliefs that I thought that I was alone. And all of a sudden I realized I wasn't alone. And it just felt like such a powerful moment. But then I just think, well, what if I hadn't taken the time to just feel all of that and journal about it? What if I just kept myself so busy and just suppressed it all and just kept going, going, going? And this is where I just feel like the exercise is just so powerful and so important that we take the time to do this and to feel what comes up and be okay with that because that's when we can have these powerful transformations happen.
And that is the yoga.
Yeah.
That's why I told you that. That's why Patanjali tells you that the struggle of the yoga is in the struggle, because there's
Hmm.
vulnerability there, and that's where you connect your Purusha, as they call it, with Ishvara, which is your soul with God.
Hmm.
So basically, in the yoga philosophy, the main crux of the philosophy is that there's three stars of the Yoga Sutras, and that's Ishvara, Prakriti, and Purusha. Prakriti is nature, it's matter, it's my identity as Brice, your identity as Paula, Millie's identity as a cat. Like that's Prakriti, that's nature. And Prakriti is the one of the three is the one that has rules. There's two rules to Prakriti. Prakriti is anything that has a beginning, a middle, and end, a birth, a life, a death, right? Even your building that's your end is Prakriti. Anything that's matter is Prakriti, is nature. But Purusha in Ishvara, there are no rules because there is no cycle with the soul.
Right.
The soul was never born and it will never die. It just always has been, which is a hard concept for humans because we live in a
Yeah.
linear world. And so what happens though, as human beings, because we chose, so we're not victims, you're not a victim of your circumstances. Your soul, and the Cassiopeians are very clear about that.
Hmm.
Your soul chose this.
Yeah.
You made the choice to
To
be
be here.
here.
Hmm.
You're not a victim. Stop acting like one. You're not a victim of the establishment. You're not a victim. You chose to be here for this ride. You chose to fight for yourself, to correct. So stop, get that victim mentality out of your head. So when we come into this world, we go through amnesia because part of that is having to rediscover
Hmm.
that we're not our identities, we're a soul. And so Patanjali says that man suffers. We have suffering. We have depression, we have anxiety, we have abandonment issues, jealousy issues, betrayal issues, because who we think we are is not who we are.
Hmm.
Who I think I am is Brice. But Brice is vulnerable because Brice has a birth, a life, and eventually a death. So any type of slight that Brice feels is pushing Brice closer towards mortality. Yeah? So it all comes back to this idea of mortality.
Hmm.
But as my teacher says, it's like holding on to sand. It's always going to slip through your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah? So when we start to go through these struggles and we lean into them, we realize through our own hard work that when we're in that moment of struggle, we are directly connected to God because we've surrendered. We've surrendered, right? When my nephew was really, really little, when kids are really little and they're starting to learn words, but they don't know full words, they get frustrated, like if they need help with a toy and they'll get real frustrated because they're trying to communicate to you what they need. Well, my nephew, all my nephews and nieces, they were all taught to say, help, please. So
Oh,
when they were getting frustrated, they could just say, help, please, to let us know. Well, I think that's kind of how we are when we are in that reality and that truth and that frustration, that sadness, and our mind is nowhere else but in this pain. We can look to God and say, help, please,
yeah.
because we realize we need an alignment with our creator,
Hmm.
that our ego is not our creator. Our
Yeah.
ego is just a lesson to be learned, our body. And that's why, like in the Law of One, they talk about how searching for immortality, like a medbed, is demonic. Medbeds are demonic.
Hmm.
They're service to self because you're trying to prolong the existence of the false sense of self. You're relying on the false sense of self to secure you with happiness,
Yeah.
to secure you with peace. So you're going to continue to get into this contraption that prolongs the inevitable, and you're not trusting in God. If you're searching for a med bed, you are not trusting in God. You are trusting in the ego, the false sense of
Yeah.
self. But when we use the body, so basically what yoga philosophy does is it takes the body, the false sense of self, and exhausts it
Hmm.
and breaks it down and rebuilds it so that you have to have that reflection of the soul looking back at your soul. Does that make sense?
Yes. And it's like with the muscle, you've got to kind of break it down and then it, repairs and gets stronger and it builds up stronger. And it's kind of like it's why we need those kind of dark night of the soul moments in our lives to kind of break down, get to the bottom, get to the foundation, and then build up stronger from there. Because if we don't have those moments, we just keep building on a false sense of self, and eventually it does
Exactly.
crumble.
It crumbles. A med bed is not going to fix your problems.
No,
A
because
med bed
even
not,
because it's just like any kind of quick fix solution that it's I mean I even feel that way about surgery too. If you have the C word, for example, and you go
Mhm.
get surgery and get the tumor removed, yes,
You've
that's
created a bigger
wonderful
problem,
because it's gone for now. But
but
if
it's
you
going to come
have
back.
not dealt with the issue that's causing it, it could be deep-seated anger, it could be, childhood trauma, it could be whatever issue it is. But if you have not dealt with that and healed with that, it's just going to grow back again. It might
That's why
take
medicine has
years.
not cured C, because it's not. That's why German new medicine is amazing because he works with that. Like, what
Yeah,
caused this to happen? What
yeah.
caused this?
And it's so
And
important.
it's so important. And so if you are relying on a med bed, the med bed is just vanity. That's all it is. It's
Mhm.
vanity. You're not dealing with your anger. You're not dealing with your betrayal. You're not dealing with your karma. That's another thing, Paula. We were talking about this. In the Western world, Westerners don't even understand what karma is.
No,
Because
I mean, and this is fascinating, Brice, because I was saying to you, even with my girls, if I mention karma to my girls, and for a while I was like this too, it's just like we see it as such a negative thing. We're like this. I've been saying to the girls, oh, I think that's just your karma that you're working on. They're like, Mum, like that's horrible. That's
karma's
a
not
horrible
bad.
thing to
Karma's
say.
neutral.
But we are so programmed to believe that karma is like this punishment or this payback that you're getting.
Oh,
And it's only through watching you and learning with you that I have realized that karma is just what the different lessons that we've chosen to work on in this life. So, for example, with me, with trying to do the forward folds, my tight hamstrings, that's just a karma that I've chosen to work on. That's a lesson that I've chosen to work on. But in the Western world, we're not taught to believe that that's what karma is. We see it as like a
Yeah,
punishment.
the whole new age term is a
Yeah.
three-letter agency, just like conspiracy theorists. So that's not a term that's used anywhere. And anytime I hear a healer use the term new age, I immediately know that that's a red flag. That's controlled opposition.
Uh-huh.
Because nobody who's really in this industry would ever even think, I've never even thought to use that term. It's not used in India. So that is a three-letter agency created word to invert the teaching so that the world would reject the teaching. Because this is
Mhm.
why we're here, right? Like if we look at the bigger battle between the Lizzies, the fourth density negative and the fourth density positive, the fourth density negative is trying to enslave us.
Yeah.
So how do they enslave us? Through MedBeds, through giving
Yes.
us money, Sarah. This is all tricks to enslave you, to
Yeah.
take your power outside of yourself. Religion, right? Political parties looking for a savior outside of you.
Mhm.
That's all created by the Lizzies, by the dark forces.
Yeah.
The good side is like you see in the Cassiopean readings a lot. And we might have to do this article next week because I think this is a really important conversation for us to
Yeah,
have.
I feel
Paula,
like this really is. Yeah.
this is an important conversation. The light side, like the service to others, like the C's are like, we're never gonna intervene unless you really ask for help. Like we're never gonna do that because that's not
Well, it kind of
service.
defeats the purpose.
Does.
It's like if we chose to came I like really I know I've said this before, but I really like to refer to the world as like a video game. And I
Yeah.
just kind of think, if you think of oh now I forgot Jumanji, the Jumanji movie, not the game board, but the more modern movie version where it's a video game and they're different characters and they've come in and I really feel like we are literally like in this video game and we have chosen to be different characters, and those different characters have their weaknesses and then they have their strengths. And what our weaknesses are is our karma that we've chose to work on, and then with our strength is what we're good at. And we have to do the work to do these things. We can't, there's no skipping it. And
No.
it's kind of like, well, if you're just gonna pop out of the game just to get some help, it's kind of like, well, that's kind of cheating.
Yeah, that's
You're not
absolutely
gonna,
cheating, and you're not going to win. You're going to
you're
be
not
sent back to the beginning. You're going to have to do it all over again. You're not going to
exactly.
leapfrog. You might leapfrog out of this life, but you're just
You
going to
might,
leapfrog
but then you
back
have to
into
come
a
back
fourth
and do it
density.
again.
You're not going fourth density. You can't skip the grade. You
You
can't do
can't
that,
skip
and
the
that's what the
level.
med
Yeah.
beds are. It's so frustrating because literally, like in the truth of world, they're literally having people sell their souls to the
Yeah.
cabal again. The truth of world is just as dirty, just as
And I
Illuminati
think
as
people
the
don't even
Marks.
realize that they're doing
They
it.
don't realize it because they
Yeah.
get in their ego.
Yeah.
I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. And they get, as Cliff High just released an credible article where he talked about most people deep down know that 99% of these truthers are not telling the truth, but it's a dopamine hit. They're going for that dopamine hit of
Yes.
I'm the special one. I'm in this galactic battle and someone's saving me. I'm the princess someone's saving. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah. Wow. And that makes so much sense. It really
And the
does.
cabal knows this. They know this with people. And so that's why they put in control opposition.
And I
And
mean,
they
think
and
about all the movies that we've grown up with. How many princesses are rescued? And so it's just
you're
a different
special.
form.
You're the holy grail. You're the reason why. It's not Mr. T's responsibility to save you. He has to save himself.
Yeah. It's our
It's not,
responsibility to save ourselves. If you want to
and,
level up, in the game, you've got to do the work to level up.
and I don't particularly, Paula, want a white hat army saving me because you know what that means? It means if they save me, they have power over me. It
Yes,
means that they now control. It's just switching one cabal for another one.
that's
And
right. And
I
and
want to
to be
work.
honest, there's no satisfaction in it though. Like, I mean, when you have done the work and you have gone through the dark night of the soul moments, or you've done that really hard workout and you got through it to the other end, that sense of accomplishment is beautiful. And you
Yeah.
don't get that from not actually doing the work yourself.
I've said this before, like imagine like you're training for a marathon, Paula,
Yeah.
and you've spent all this time training to run this marathon. And the day comes, you go to the start line with all these other people, these souls that you're gonna do this together. These are people you didn't know them before, but now you've all signed up to do this race together. You're nervous, you're excited, you're hoping you have the right socks on, you know, you're like kind of having mixed feelings, like, what did I just sign up for? But no, this is gonna be, I'm gonna do this. This is so cool. You see people at the start some of them are crying, like they're holding tears back because they're just overwhelmed with emotion about what they're about to experience and what they've worked so hard for. And then boom, it goes off the start. You're going, it's hard. You're excited at first, but then you hit that hard part, but you keep passing through. You're going down the streets. People are cheering you on. You've got music playing, water stops, toilet stops. You see your family and friends holding signs up and high-fiving you along the way. And all of a sudden you're down to like the last mile. And you can just taste it. You can taste that finish line. But then all of a sudden, before you go over that, before you see the finish line, all of a sudden somebody swoops in, picks you up, and then just carries you over the finish line.
Oh, no.
No, thank you. Let
No.
me have this moment.
Yeah.
You have seen thousands of lives in third density going through this lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson. And now you're getting close to the finish line and you're just going to sit back.
Yeah.
You don't realize how far, unfortunately, or fortunately, the universe isn't going to let you do that.
Hmm.
You try to get someone to carry you over the finish line, guess what? You're just going to have to go back to the start line again
Yeah, there's a
and do it all
cost.
over again.
There's a cost that comes with doing that. Yeah.
It's like with karma, karma is cause and effect. That karma is neutral. There's
Mm.
no such thing as bad karma or good karma. We put the label of bad karma, but karma itself is just neutral.
Yeah.
Karma does not have a personal opinion one way or the other. It's just cause and effect. I pay my electricity bill. The karma of that is my lights turn on.
Yeah.
I drink water. The karma of that is I go pee. I work my ass off. The karma of that is I have a toned body. Like that's that, or and I work that there. That is all karma is.
Hmm.
And so if you are a living, breathing person on this earth, you have karma. If you didn't have karma, you wouldn't be here anymore. You have things to work on.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. It's just part of being human. It's just part of addressing, and I've said before, even Superman had karma, right? He had kryptonite.
Yeah.
We all have kryptonite. But if you actually lean into your karma, what you think is your weakness actually becomes the strongest part of you,
Yeah.
has the ability to become the strongest part of you. And so that is the important thing. You're creating new patterns, you're releasing that karma. Um, it's not bad. It's just neutral. And you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to complete this experience in order to move on. And again, the good news is that the universe isn't going to let you cheat.
Yeah.
So you can try to cheat in this life. You can try it, but you're just going to have to go back to the start line. That's why the Cassiopeians had said a long time ago, they did a reading because we're on extended time right now. We were supposed to have already flipped, but they keep extending the time because so many people have been brainwashed by the Lizzies
Yeah. They've done a
that
good job.
very disappointing. And the Cassiopeians say only about 3% of human population is actually going to move on to fourth density.
Hmm.
And I think that's mostly normies, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I think most of the truthers have put the nail in their
Yeah.
coffin because they've sold their soul. They've sold their soul to this white hat agenda, this movie playing out,
To this idea that they're going to be rescued.
and that's not why you came here.
No.
That's not the point. Or that they're a victim of something. You're not a victim.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in a first world country, you are not a victim. You
I
are so lucky
know.
to
God,
live in
it's
a first world
just,
country.
we are so, I just feel like I'm just surrounded by, there's just so much of that victim mentality just
It's the
everywhere.
rise of narcissism. It's what it
Yeah.
is. It's
And
entitlement.
it's,
And that's why I got off Telegram because I was like hearing all these people like, especially Americans, who are letting themselves get overweight, not taking care of themselves, not because they think a med bed's coming and they get pissed off when it doesn't. I'm like, you little narcissistic psychopath. You live in a country
we
where
just
you
have so much. I mean, so like, so Bryce, like, I know that you've just finished reading the book, The Women, and I'm still kind of midway through it. Man, I was just like, I was bawling my eyes out the other day, and I was just like, man, I just feel so grateful to be living
have,
where I am living right now. So, for anybody who hasn't heard of or read the book, The Women, by Kristen Hanna, isn't it? Kristen Hanna, yeah. It's basically about three women who lived through Vietnam, through the war, and they volunteered to become nurses in the Vietnam War. And just like, the long hours that they worked, like she was even saying that the main character, saying how she lost weight because she's just working constantly, just trying to help people. She becomes like a really top nurse, doesn't she? Because of
Mhm.
how hard she's working and the hardship she goes through. And I'm
They're
just
like
thinking,
21
yeah,
too. They're like
it's
in their early 20s.
it's
Yeah.
incredible the hardship that they go through. And I just think, man, my life is a piece of cake. I mean, I get stressed out and I feel like life is full on being a single mum and trying to balance everything and do everything that I'm doing. And I'm just like, man, my life is easy compared to what those women went through. And the fact that they barely even get recognized or appreciated for what they sacrificed and what they did is just,
They were not. Well, isn't that interesting too? What I keep reflecting back on that book is the first half there in Vietnam, and that's where she was the most alive.
yeah,
That's where she felt the most human, was when
yeah,
she was faced with death every second of every day.
yeah.
That's where she had her humanity. And once that was taken away from her and she came back to the Matrix, that's when the PTSD set in.
Right.
And they called it shell shock back then, but they didn't think the women had the shell shock because they didn't see combat. So that's a whole struggle for them to try, for her to try to
Yes, because it would be
find
just as
help.
traumatic to see all these injured soldiers coming through and seeing so many people dying. I mean, they're trying so hard to save them.
Yeah,
And
it's
sometimes
crazy.
it just doesn't, yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not up to that part of the book yet, but isn't that interesting though, how you're saying that that's when it sets in. So it's like while you're, so do you think they're just kind of living off a lot of adrenaline at the
I
time?
think people, well, at the time, well, I think first of all, when you're in that struggle, you do realize what's important. And that's the concept of the main character, right? She comes from a very affluent family.
Yeah,
Um,
very well
their
off.
family is very patriotic. They love the military. She does her brother. She goes to follow her brother. She signs up to go to be with her brother, but right before she goes, her brother is unfortunately unalived in Vietnam. And so she's going there already with that trauma. And then the fact that her parents, it was embarrassing for her parents that their daughter went off to Vietnam. That was not something women did. So
Mhm.
she's contending with that. So she comes back. So what we're seeing is true life, the value of life. You're also looking at the big racial tensions happening at that time, and her best friend is a black woman and she's a white, and that's very interesting to see their relationship. That you only hear from the very beginning when she's describing these girls that was it Barbara, she talks about her afro, and
Yeah,
that's it, because the rest of the book they are literally clinging to each other for survival,
yeah.
and it doesn't matter to them
Well,
that
the
she's
color,
white and
skin color
Barbara's black.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Doesn't It becomes irrelevant because it becomes about surviving and being in
Yeah.
humanity, and the good. It was like it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, because
Mm.
the moments when they're off and they're on the beach in Vietnam having a grand old time, like the life that they're living. And I think that she was truly living, and that people, and
Yeah.
when she comes back, it's like she kind of misses it because that she was alive. There was life because there
Yeah.
was so much. They only knew life because there was always death around them, right? And so when they come back, that is now, and then of course during that time, the American people started realizing they were being lied to by the government, X, Y, and Z. I will say though, and I bawled at the,
Yeah.
isn't giving it a really away, guys, but I'm going to go ahead,
But it's
throughout her
interesting
struggle.
how she picks up on that quite early about how they're lying in the newspaper and lying about the
Yeah,
soldiers and stuff like that.
it's actually happening.
Hmm.
And at the end of the book, which again, this is not giving it away for those who want to read it, because the whole, I mean, you basically, we know what happens at the end of Vietnam. Like we kind of know what the plot is when you pick this book up.
Hmm.
It's early 1980s, and they decided in DC to create a Vietnam monument, which I actually, when I go back to DC, I want to find the nurses monument, because they did build a nurses monument eventually, a big statue of nurses.
Right.
Makes me bald at the end.
I know.
And she goes to see the unveiling of this monument.
Oh,
She's
right.
probably in her 30s at this point because she was in her 20s, and she wants her parents to come because they know her brother Finley's name's going to be on the wall, but they know they can't go. So she goes and she wears her old army uniform, her nurse's uniform, and her parents show up. They end up showing up, and she finds Finley's name, and her dad's there, her mom's there, and at the end, this man, it's long hair, it's coming out of the 70s. comes up, I'm going to get emotional, comes up to her and says, "Hi, ma'am, were you a nurse?" Because she's got her, she goes, "Yes." And he goes, "It's because of women like you that I came back. Thank you for being there with us." And at that moment, her father actually realizes that his daughter was in Vietnam and what she did was important. And
Yeah.
she was just as much a part of this as the men were. And just that, I'm paraphrasing that conversation where this kid is like, "Thank you, because of women like you, I got to come home."
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and so many,
what those men were going through, I just can't even imagine. And just the tiny bit of kindness that she gave to all of them, she was so kind to them. And I mean, I know that this is based on a fictional story, but I can just imagine how many beautiful nurses out there gave up their lives and did what they could. And the fact that they just showed any bit of kindness to try and help as many men as they
just
could.
sat them while they died. Like how many of the men that she sat
Yeah,
with
just holding their
witnessed their
hand and
death.
just being there and just, so that they know that they're not alone as they're passing on. Like, yeah, I can't imagine. And I can't imagine how strong they would have to be
Yeah.
to do that.
It
Yeah.
it was and so that was very powerful in that moment. And then that's when they built the nurses monument for all the women that went to Vietnam to serve as nurses. But that's I think too, when we look at the truthers today and how they have that victim mentality.
Oh, it's
Listen,
like,
there have been
seriously, we have
generations
been through
before us.
nothing.
We've been through nothing compared to generations. Think about World War I, World War
Yeah,
II.
think about our grandparents.
Nothing compared to what the Great Depression. We are lucky. You know why we're lucky? Because we know what we're up against.
Yeah,
We know the truth. Our ancestors didn't.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
So we are lucky. We have clarity.
Hmm.
We have
Yeah.
clarity.
They had
We
no idea.
have no idea. We know we're up against satanic, Luciferian, we'll say pedio,
Hmm.
schmiles.
Yeah,
We know what we're up against.
but
We know. We're lucky. We have clarity. We can take our power back because we know what we're fighting.
yeah, that's right.
Our ancestors did not
We
know what
can't just
they were
sit back
fighting.
waiting around for a magic pill to save us. It's just
No.
these, our ancestors fought in these wars and did everything they could. And then it's
Under
just like
false
we're just sitting
pretenses.
around whinging because we want a med bed because we can't be bothered to exercise, take care of our health. I mean, we have so much.
Our ancestors would kill to be in our position,
Yeah.
to actually understand that these wars are not about what we think they're about. Thank you to the men and women of Vietnam who went through what they went through, because that was one layer that was removed for us.
Mhm.
We
But
are lucky.
do you think that's part of the programming is to make us so comfortable, so that we do just become more compliant, because we're just so
Yeah,
comfortable that we
it's
don't actually know what it feels like to
it's
really
that rise of
struggle.
narcissism. I'm actually doing a show tomorrow over narcissism. It's the rise of narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic traits. It's that entitlement. It started with the participation trophies where things weren't earned anymore.
Right.
It's this idea that if I'm uncomfortable, then somebody else is doing this to me, and therefore
Yeah.
they're the bad guys, and I should be treated like an entitled little princess. I'm the special flower. I'm the special one, and that seeped into the truther world. That, oh well, I'm special because I'm awake,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't
I
have
can
to
see
pay my
that so
bills because of the cabal. Yeah, you do have to pay your bills.
because
It's called an
you're
energy
just like
exchange.
everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an energy exchange. That's what this world's about.
And
And
so
so I think
I do wonder if, in the more third world countries, if there is as much narcissism as there is.
I don't think so. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been in the developing countries. I think they're more willing to take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
And don't you
does the
find that they're more caring and more loving and more giving?
Yeah, because when you're humble, when you have humility, when you face your own struggles,
Yeah.
that's the outcome. You become more empathetic, you become more compassionate.
Hmm.
But when you're entitled, that's what made me mad with the whole Hurricane Helene. My cousin was missing, and I had people on Telegram saying it was all a show and wasn't real.
And it's just like,
Are
are
you
you
that
kidding
much of a
me? What a slap
psychopath?
in the face.
Are you a psychopath? Like people are finding their children in trees.
I know. Oh, I know that.
Where's your
Yeah.
humanity? If you feel that way and you have no, then you are not going positive. You are not as awake as you think you are, and you will not be moving forward. I mean, I had someone comment be like, "Oh, it's probably because it was just a bunches of witches and warlocks." These are multiple towns of innocent people who are just living their life. What the fuck are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Yeah, it's not like they all group together. It's just, yeah.
No. And you think that what so if that happened in your neighborhood, how would you feel if people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's fine. Let their kids be in trees. It's just a show anyway. It's just part of the movie anyway." No, these are human lives,
Yeah.
just like
And that's the
yours.
thing is it's just it's so easy to disassociate from it when it's not happening to you or to your town or to your area.
Yeah.
It's just so easy. And because and this is a problem with movies and video games and things like that as well. It's just we're so programmed to seeing violence and all these catastrophic things happening on the screen all the time. So that when it happens on the news, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I mean, that's sad, but that's over there. It's got nothing to do with us, and then you disassociate from it.
And is it wasn't
Scary.
that the establishment's goal
Yeah.
when they created controlled opposition that you would lose your humanity,
Hmm.
that you wouldn't care about people anymore because you would think it was part of a movie, or if anything bad happens to the world, it must be because they're bad guys, not just because bad things happen in the world.
Yeah.
Or that you don't have to actually work on yourself because guess what? It's all been done to screw you. You're the victim. You're the pretty little princess victim.
Yeah. And
Take
people go along with
responsibility.
that because it's so much easier to
Easier.
blame. Yeah, it's
It's
blame
easier to
others.
be selfish. It's extremely, that's why again I got rid of Telegram because I was like, this is the most toxic, selfish. I've never experienced this much selfishness. Just
Yeah.
not a thought in the world
Yeah,
about anybody.
I got rid
And
of
I noticed,
Telegram too.
save the children, but if their children bodies in trees in Helene
Then they don't
hurricane,
want to know.
they
Yeah.
must have been just witches and warlocks. No, so you're not about save the children. You just want a virtue signal. I find that in the truther community, there's way more virtue signaling than there is in the normies. At
Yeah.
this point, I think I'd rather hang out with a normie. I find that there are normies out there that know nothing about these conspiracies, but I know a lot of normies out there that know nothing about these
Yep.
conspiracies. But they're
But
the
very
kindest people
loving,
you'll ever
very
meet.
compassionate. Yeah.
Very selfless,
Hmm.
very sweet, genuinely concerned about other people. And then I get on these apps with these truthers and they know all these conspiracies, but yet they treat the world like shit. And they're selfish.
It's just
And
crazy. But
it's
like
crazy.
they know about this stuff, but then still just not actually applying it to real life.
It's supposed to, the Great Awakening was supposed to wake people up so they became better human beings and made better choices.
Yeah. And
But
work on
instead,
themselves.
work on themselves. But instead, the cabal knew what was coming. They put controlled and even the Cassiopeians have said most of the big YouTubers who are truthers are controlled opposition. They're undergrounders.
Oh.
And I think when we don't have humility, that whole saying, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me."
Hmm.
So when we realize the media lied to us, that should have been humility. We should have had, "Oh my God, I was lied to. How did that happen?"
Yeah.
But most people go, "Oh my God, I was lied to," but then go to another YouTuber who's lying to them again
Yeah.
instead of self-reflecting
Yeah. Instead of, yeah.
and
And
having humility,
I've
having discernment.
I've even been doing that recently, just a few YouTubers that I was following, and I'm just kind of just, not trying to think about what other people think, but just kind of going within and just thinking, right, what is, as Tamara says, what does your gut feeling say? And then just, yeah, some I was just like, yeah, no, I still feel like I resonate with them. And some I was just like, no, it's something feels off. And so then just stop watching them. And I just feel like we just have to do that. And you have to, I think you have to check in kind of regularly to just kind of just get that gut feeling and just kind of feel like, all right, are these people that I'm following still resonating with me?
Yeah. And even with things like the med beds, I did a show on Gnostic TV. Guys, the link's down below. It's free
Mhm.
about the med beds. And from whistleblowers, we know that in order to use that technology, you literally have to sell your soul.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
And they use the life force energy of children in the crystals to power the med bed.
Oh, wow.
So for all the truthers that are purporting and wanting these med beds, you're literally consenting to the establishment. You're consenting. Why do you think the list hasn't been dropped yet? Because you're consenting to it, because you want a med bed and you haven't taken the time to actually research this
Hmm.
and think logically about this. Why am I here as a human? So
Yeah.
every med bed use, a child has given its life. It's no different than the red substance people drink that we can't say on YouTube. No
Yeah.
different. So you guys on Telegram are cheering for this. But so you're no different than Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton. You're no different. You're consenting. You're telling the establishment that you want this.
Wow. Yeah,
So that's why it's
I really need to watch that episode on Gnostic TV.
yeah. We put it on Gnostic for a reason, obviously, because
Yeah.
YouTube. But it's free. You can go watch it on Gnostic. I'll put the link down below.
Hmm.
But that makes sense to me because of all of my studies in India. I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense because there is no such thing as a free lunch. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as a free lunch, not in third density. This is a density on energy exchange. Like Paula, we get shit because we charge very low prices for our academy because people think we should do it for free. Well, no, that's you being selfish.
Yeah, but
Me, me,
how are we
me,
going to
me, me,
pay our
me, me, me.
bills,
Right?
if
How am
we
I going
don't
to pay to keep the internet to
even
film?
and to have the platform, that costs
Yeah.
money.
How are we? And Paula, we could be charging way more than we charge
Yeah.
with our level of education, but we're trying to keep it as low as possible,
Yeah,
and
so people can
so a
join
lot of
up.
people can do it.
That's right.
Just to make sure that we've got all of our bills taken care of and that we can actually afford to live. We get that at AYA where people are like, you should open a shala for free. And it's like,
Well, who's going to pay the rent?
who's going to pay, yeah, the rent to keep the lights on? Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? How narcissistically psychopathic are you?
Yeah, and I think
There's
this
something
is what
wrong
happens
with
is
you.
people just get carried away with these ideas and they're not actually set in reality.
No,
Because
it's entitlement,
okay,
selfishness.
maybe in an ideal world, yes, we should be having free energy and we should be having all sorts of things, but we're not there yet. We're still in the
And
system.
that's not third density. That's just
Yeah,
not third density because it's polarized. And that's the point of third density is there's polarity. And so there has to be an energy exchange. Like
yeah,
you can't not sleep. You have to sleep. You
that's
have
right.
to eat. This is part of an energy exchange,
So that's
right? You
just the
have
way it
to
is.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now we could do like our answer more bartering stuff, like the baker would bake bread for the shoemaker to make shoes. That's an
Yeah.
energy exchange. It's bartering.
But
In India,
it's still a transfer of energy. So whether you're
yeah,
doing money or whether you're doing things, it's still the transfer of energy.
that's why a lot of shallows have karma programs for people who can't
Mm.
actually afford to pay the tuition but want to study. The
Right.
owner of a shala will set up a karma program where that person will come help them clean the shala or
Okay.
will help market the shala. So they're giving energy to receive, Patabi Joyce, when he was a little boy and couldn't pay Krishnamacharya, he moved in with Krishnamacharya and was basically his servant.
Yeah,
We do all
right.
his laundry, all his cleaning in order to be able to learn from Krishnamacharya. It's all based off of energy exchange.
Hmm.
And that's something that the truthers are missing. They're taking without giving in return.
Yeah.
To give in return. It's like manifestation. I think Todd spoke about this with you briefly in an interview. We have people making these vision boards
Yeah.
for big houses and mansions and nice cars. But if you're not actually working for that, you're stealing. That becomes black magic at that point, and you're taking from somebody else.
Yeah, which is so fascinating.
So
Yeah,
if you're
because
making a
they
vision
don't
board,
cover this in the
they
manifestation.
don't. They want you practicing black magic because they want
Yeah.
the Lizzies to be in control. So if you're creating a vision board, but you're doing fuck all to actually earn that house,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having a nice house, a nice car, but you got to earn it.
Yeah. It'll
You
work.
got to be asking for opportunities to earn it.
Hmm.
Not just that it's given to you because the universe listens. Yeah, the universe listens, and that's black magic. So I'm asking the audience, have you created a vision? Are you doing black magic? Are you putting a vision board up with the mansion on it and you're not doing anything to earn that?
Hmm.
Have a little think about that. Common sense. This is all an energy exchange. And once you realize it, it's not your fault for not realizing it, but now that you realize it,
Then what are you going to do? Yeah.
then you have to make a choice.
Hmm.
Now that you know because without realizing things, there's some laws of forgiveness.
Mhm.
If the behavior is very blatantly selfish, then like
Agreed.
the Enough is Enough Telegram group I've spoken about, he just blatantly lies to people. He just makes up stories and lies to people.
And he's still going.
He's still going. So that's not
So
for
then, yeah,
clickbait.
there's not going to be so much forgiveness happening there
No, because
because,
he's
yeah,
blatantly photoshopping pictures of people blatantly and making up stories so people will follow him. That's a blatant lie. That's a selfish service to self. That is someone who's not on this. They might know the conspiracies. They might have voted for Mr. T, but if that behavior is their behavior they're doing on a daily basis, that's service to self.
yeah.
They even have like crypto scams going on in there. My boyfriend went in there under a fake name and he saw, because he's really good at like crypto stuff, and he saw people like scamming older people and he tried to step in and say, no, 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 don't do this. You're going to lose your money. And they booted him. So they're in the Enough is Enough group. They're running crypto scams, guys. They're stealing your money. And anybody who tries to say anything, like don't they block them from the page. So you have to use discernment. Not everybody who says they're a truther is a truther. Not everybody who says they have your best interest at heart has your best interest at heart. You have to educate yourself. Yeah. And that comes on that you have to know yourself. You have to get in your body.
You do, yeah, and it's just getting to know that intuition and just getting to know your gut feeling and because yeah, I mean, I know because I know Tamara talks about that a lot and sometimes it can be like, oh, well, I don't know what my gut feeling's saying, but you've got to do that work, to get to know yourself so that you can feel it because
Yeah.
nobody else can do that for you.
Nobody can do it for you. And that's why I get so frustrated. I've said this before, but like I see people giving their power away, and I've had that education behind me to see these things, and it frustrates me because I'm like, you're selling your soul.
Hmm.
You're just selling your soul to another establishment, and you're selfish. You're acting at service to self. If you're willing to get into a med bed without researching it, you literally just sold your soul. When your body, God gave you everything you need. Your body is your med bed. God gave you. You think the same God that created the Rocky Mountains didn't give you everything you need to heal yourself?
Yeah.
Why are you cheating the system? It's just going to take hard work. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but guess what? You're not special. No one gets a free lunch in this world. No one gets out of this world alive. Every single person. And that drives me crazy too, Paula. I think it's because I've worked with so many people who have literal issues, like very painful issues going on, and they don't complain, they do the work, and then I see people acting selfish just because it's uncomfortable, because you don't want to sweat. Get the fuck out of here. Like, get out, don't stop wasting my time. Like if that is literally your mindset, then good luck.
Hmm.
Because the world owes you nothing.
But then, as sad as it is, sometimes people do need to go through
Yeah. They
the
just won't
that,
get entitled. They just won't get
I
coddled from
mean,
me.
look, I'm going to be completely honest. I've been scammed with a crypto scam because I was naive. I didn't do the research and I was kind of looking for a quick fix. And guess what? Bit me in the ass.
And that's a lesson learned, right? But you
And
learn from it, right?
that's
You,
a
you
lesson
learn from it.
learned. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what we say too. We don't interrupt somebody's karma. Like we don't, and that's when a lot of like at our shala, a lot of traditional shalas, we get rid of students a lot. Like if a student is literally like being stubborn and not doing the work and taking the teacher's time, the teacher will pull the student aside and be like, I don't think this is right for you. Come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
Because
And
even
I think that's
here,
fair.
I'm not going to interrupt your karma. If you
No.
want to be a spoiled brat, if you want to think that you're special and think that for some reason you're the one person in this whole entire world who's not supposed to be uncomfortable, I can't change your mind and you're wasting my time. I'm not going to interrupt your karma. Leave and go live life. And then once you figure that out
When
that
you're
you're not
ready,
special,
then come
then you
back.
can come back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to I've had to tell students I don't think that students that I've had students in the room flat out refuse to do the work. Like flat out sit there and refuse to like lift up and jump back.
Wow. It's like, well, what are you doing there then?
Like this is what this class is. And everybody else in the room is busting their asses, all the other students are laughing about how difficult it is. We're cracking jokes about how difficult it is. I'll see one student in the corner of my eye cheat and I'll be like, I saw that, and they'll start laughing, because they got caught. But
Yeah.
then another student is like, doesn't want to do. They just this particular student just wanted to do the postures, didn't want to do the jump back, jump through. But As a teacher, that's your response. I can't, you need to do the jump back, jump through because that's burning the karma. So if you're just doing the stretches without flushing it, then I'm creating a monster at that point.
Hmm.
And so I flat out said to the student, I don't think this practice is for you.
Yeah.
And I said, look at everybody else in the room is doing the work and you're refusing to, then why are you in this class?
Hmm. Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah. You can't leapfrog Ashtanga. Yes, Ashtanga is the punk rock of yoga. Yes, Ashtanga has a reputation of being like tattooed people, like really tough, like beautiful practice. So some people try to come to an Ashtanga class and just skim the surface to
Hmm.
have that reputation without actually doing the work to earn the reputation.
Yeah, but it just
And
doesn't work
that's not
like
going to
that.
fly in an Ashtanga class because that's also dangerous. It's liability too
Yeah.
for you know, because there's a reason. So yeah, we're just we're not going to coddle you. We're not going to we're not going to blow smoke into your illusions,
Hmm.
you know? So, but with that being said, when the work is hard and someone is actually working hard, even though we're tough, we're going to be there to support you. I'm
Yeah.
going to hold your hand, you know? And that's just, and I think a lot of people just, I mean, and I think it's literally just been in the last 2 decades, Paula, that it's changed where it used to be tough love was normal. That
Yeah.
was normal. And now people want to be had smoke blowing up their ass. And it's like, why? You're not going to change by having someone coddle you.
Hmm.
My teachers don't coddle me.
Yep. I
My
know.
teachers, my teacher
It's
in India would be like, why belly coming? Like if you gain a little bit of weight, he's like, why belly coming? You know, like
it's so funny. But you know,
what?
it's even like that with kids too. You know, like I was doing a school drop off this morning and I was talking to one of the mums and she was just like, yeah, I just don't let my kids get away with stuff. I'm old fashioned. And I'm like, yeah, that's how we got to be like that because too many kids, they're growing up with this entitlement attitude, thinking that, okay, if I don't get what I want, I'm just going to chuck a tantrum and then I'll get away with it. And
Make
it's like,
something up and blame somebody else.
yeah,
And it's seeped into the adults too.
yeah,
So if you don't want your children to be little shits,
you
you
got to
show
be
them how.
firm. You got to be hard on them.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's uncomfortable. You don't want to deal with the tantrum. I freaking hate dealing with tantrums, but you just got to stay firm and grounded with it and just be like, no, the answer's no, that's it. Because that's when they just start to develop this entitlement attitude and just think that they can just get what they want. And if they don't get what they want, they chuck a tantrum. And adults chuck tantrums all the time too.
yeah. Exactly. Just treat, and that's what the adults like. Adults, do you want to be little shits? Like, if you don't want your
Yeah.
kids to be little shits, show them what it's like to be an integral person who works hard for what they have
Mhm.
and serves others and takes care of themselves. You know, being physically fit also means that you can be of service to other people.
Yeah.
That means I have more energy at 42. I probably have more energy than most 32-year-olds because I'm fit. So I can take my dog out on long WALKs and serve him. I can clean the house and serve my boyfriend. I can, you know, it's
I know,
all
I
about,
actually feel better now at 38 than I did at 22 because
oh,
I just
totally.
had
I would never, yeah.
such bad like fatigue issues when I was
Yeah.
younger. And it's
And
just
you guys, speaking of aging, sorry to interrupt, but over on before I forget the Instagram, we share a lot of the stories of old
yeah.
people, like really old people
Oh my God,
doing
it is amazing.
like I'm talking like
Amazing.
90 years old in like
Yeah.
strength training, like bodybuilding competitions.
Yeah.
So please
These
follow us
people,
on Instagram.
yeah.
Watch those videos to deprogram yourself to think that they're
There is 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds. There was one guy who was 99 years old and he looked like he was probably what, 60? I
yeah,
was
a
blown
99-year-old
away.
woman crossing over a 5K race.
It's
She was
just,
99. You see, it took her an hour to run it, but she did it
oh,
at
it's just,
99.
I'm like, if I'm gonna grow old, I want to be like that.
And you guys, so that helps. I'm gonna try to share more. I send them to Paula, I tag Paula to share. So we start deprogramming this
Yeah.
idea that once I'm a certain age, I just
We
have to be
don't,
old.
yeah, we don't have to grow old. We don't have to become, not being able to walk and not being able to do things. We can live a great life.
And having healthy muscles helps fight dementia,
Yep.
like keeps your mind. So there's so much, you guys. I know we were gonna do the next installment of the
Yeah.
Cassiopeians, guys, but I feel
But
like
we've
this
just
was really
been
important.
rambling the whole time.
This is so important because this is
Yeah,
literally what it's about. Like all the conspiracy stuff is interesting and fascinating, but it doesn't matter unless you're actually working on yourself.
that's
And
right.
so, you guys, Paul and I did create codes for ourselves. I've been
Yeah, we
using other
did.
we were so busy creating affiliate links for other people that we didn't create our own links. So
Yeah.
that's why in some videos I've used other people's links. So we both have Paula 20 is one link, Brice 20 is another link that gets you 20% off your first 6 months at the Esoteric Academy. And you also get on top of that get 7 days of a free trial.
Yeah.
So you have a whole week to like play with the academy,
Yeah.
take classes on there. And if you decide after a week it's not for you, you can
That's
cancel
fine.
it
Yeah.
and card gets charged. Yeah. So I know we've got a lot of new people coming on. I do want to tell you guys that our next live workout class is going to be on the 21st
Yeah.
at 8 a.m. No, 9 a.m. Sorry, 9 a.m.
Fine. Yeah.
Eastern time. And it's going to be a somatic slow class. So we're going to be doing holding deep stretches, which I think a lot of people are excited about, but it's
Gonna
a
be
different,
interesting.
uncomfortable. Yeah, it's going
Different,
to be interesting.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
We'll talk more about like what to expect before the class starts on the class. And of course, if you can't make the live class, we always record them and then post them later. And don't worry, if you're taking the class, I set the camera so it's only on me when we start
Mm.
exercising. So nobody else who does the replay can see you guys working out.
Yeah.
We protect your privacy with that. We also are going to be sending out a link soon to our group on the Academy because we have a Cassiopean and kind of combining the Cassiopean with the yoga
Hmm.
philosophy. You have a playlist for that for one of the courses, and we've done the first 3 chapters of Riding the Wave, and we're gonna have a roundtable talk about it. And then I'm going to bring in the Yoga Sutras to that. And we're inviting anybody on the Academy who wants to be a part of that episode, part of that round table to join us. We had to push it back a month because a lot of people were on vacation. School was getting out. Schedule was crazy. So that will be at 8 a.m. on the 28th, Saturday the 28th, that recording. And we're going to be sending that link out to all of our students. So everybody's going to have an option if they want to hop on. If they don't want to hop on, that's fine. Just know you will be recorded and it will be posted. So
Yeah.
anything else you want to add to that, Paula, before we?
Ah, well, I think yeah, we've had a really great conversation today, and I'm so glad we covered these topics because I recently made a couple of meditations that I put onto the academy, and I also just kind of created a like a tracker just to kind of for your daily habits, just because sometimes it can be
Yeah.
hard to stay consistent and to stay motivated. So I recorded two kind of short meditations to just kind of help with motivation to exercise and to be consistent, because consistency is something that I've kind of struggled with. I don't know if it's a Piscean thing or because I just kind of go with the
I
flow.
mean, like for me, up until this point, like up until I was in a shala every day. I had like a shala mates like in class and teachers that would literally text me and be like, "Where are you?"
Yeah, so you had to
You
be
know, so
accountable. Yeah.
to the point where now that they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears, but when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears. And I felt
Yeah.
that hardcore when I started going to India because when I would be home from India for a few months, I would be completely on my own. And now my teacher has passed away, so it's a whole level of having to integrate that for me. So yeah, I think you're right. I thank you for creating those trackers, Paula. We also have a 30-day guide for people. Paula, you're also going to be making a playlist of videos that are really good for beginners
Yeah.
as well, to help people get started. Remember, getting
Because
started is the
we
hardest
we
part.
really want to help and support you guys as much as possible because we live in the real world. We're really doing this too, along with you guys at different levels. You know, obviously Brice is a lot more advanced than I am. I'm more beginner level, but we are actually doing this. We're on this journey with you. We want to help you learn and grow on this journey with us, and we want to give you all the tools we can. And we're always open to any requests that you might have, anything that you think might be helpful. We're happy to create that. Yeah, we're just happy to help in any way we can. And Millie obviously wants to give
Yeah.
her love. You want to help motivate everyone?
Millie's getting ready for third density. She's taking some notes
Yeah,
before
that's right.
so, but no, guys, we have a lot of fun, even though the work is hard. I always say that just because it's hard doesn't mean it can't be fun.
Oh, but I
You know,
spend so much of my workout laughing at the things you say.
and I try to pick fun music. I try to like
Yeah,
make it
good.
enjoyable as much as I can. And so, and there's a lot of, We've also got a Vedic chanting course that's going to be hopefully dropping before the end of the summer. All sorts of different stuff. I know Cindy, my friend Cindy, wants to come on and do a call with you guys
Yeah,
about
which would be
somatic
great.
too, because she does works a lot with somatic. I know Paula is going to be doing a call on quantum healing.
Yes, I
So,
am. Yep.
you know, we'd love to have you guys again. We're different from other workout platforms, is that our intention is to awaken you spiritually. All
Mhm.
the health stuff, the physical stuff comes with it. It's all one package that comes together. But I feel like the big motivation and the big why, kind of how we started, is that this is a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. And to whom much is given, much is expected. I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time in India. And so I'm going to take that and hopefully package that information and that education in a way that's understandable to Westerners so that they can start to take their power back. You don't have to go and learn Sanskrit like I did. You don't have to go to India like I did. You don't have to put your legs behind your head or catch your ankles in a back bend. I can take all those lessons and package them for people who are moms and who have corporate jobs and who are, carpooling kids and who are just trying to figure things out. And we can package this in a way. And I want everybody watching this to understand how unbelievably blessed you are.
Yeah.
You live in a time in life, like we just said, you know what you're up against. It's clear. We know exactly what's going on in the world. We know who we're up against. There's no delusion or illusion anymore. But the biggest person you're up against is yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we just got to quit those excuses.
Yeah. No, and no matter what, because no matter wherever you go, guess what? There
They're going
you
to follow
are.
you. Yeah.
So even if you hop into a med bed and you get 20 years taken off and 100 pounds taken off,
Well,
okay.
6 months later, it might all be back again.
And there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. How many people do crash diets, lose weight, but then gain the weight back because they didn't deal with the issue, the actual issue?
Yeah.
So because wherever you go, there you are.
Hmm.
So just understand that there's no magic pill. You are the magic pill.
Yeah.
You are the magic pill. So, all right, you guys, next week, I guess next time we'll get back to the Cassiopeians, but
Yeah.
we had a lot of questions on this. So I think that was needed. That was needed. So,
Yeah. I think that was important.
all right, you guys, anything else, Paula, before we sign out?
Yeah, no, that's all good. I think that's it. We're looking forward to talking to you next time.
Woo. Bye, everybody.
Bye.